What up, guys? Welcome to the Futurephonic podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Savitha.
We're coming at you in late November 2020. We're still here. We're still alive.
Just barely for some of us.
Hanging on by a thread. It has been a while since our last one. I think last time we did a podcast, the world was still pretty stable. The global economic situation was not totally ravaged. But we wanted to come back with my new co-host as well, Savitha. Why don't you tell folks about yourself?
Okay, well, I'm Savitha, or Savi if we're friends. And some of you might know me as Digital Hippie. I'm with 01. Yay, 01. Nice to be talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's great to have you on as the new co-host for the new Futurephonic podcast.
We're so global, Alex. You're in Finland. I'm in Goa.
We're so global, yeah. But yeah, I just miss chatting in the pod form. I miss the pod chats. You know. Are you a pod person? Have you always?
I'm somewhat of a pod person.
Okay.
I like some podcasts. I like some crime podcasts and some literature podcasts. But yeah, this is my first foray into the podcast world, but it's so exciting.
It's a nice way to connect with people, and I feel like we all need connection more than ever at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Totally feeling you on the true crime. What is with true crime? I think, is that not something that we've sort of realized about ourselves as a species, that we just love kind of sort of voyeuristically looking at?
Yeah, because everyone wants to be a detective or a spy. That's what it is. Secretly.
I guess the way that they arrange the shows as well is like, it makes you feel like you're doing the work. You know, like you're seeing stuff that even like there's like 20 detective of 20 years can't even see. Like you almost want to call in.
Yeah, because you have all the information from all sides. But I just love it. I love it so much.
And like on Netflix as well, have you noticed that they do this thing of like, at the end of the first episode, you're like, it's definitely that guy who did it. And then at the end of the second episode, you're like, well, hang on a second, maybe he didn't do it.
Nowadays, the ones I see, like, they don't really give you any closure. Like, they build it up, and then in the end, they kind of leave it open-ended, because there might be like a season 2 or something. I find that really frustrating. It's very frustrating. I need closure, Alex.
Even though it's real life. And then you have to stop yourself from like searching the news websites for like what really happened. We are here today. We're going to be joining in a moment an old friend of mine, Joe Markendale, aka Sonic Species.
Sonic Species.
First, let's get in the know about Joe.
As Sonic Species, Joe's signed to the mighty Aino Records, and he's been signed since 2017.
Joe lives in Ibiza and is a keen practitioner of Tai Chi.
Joe's music, both as a solo artist and collaborator, has frequently found its way to the top of the Beatport charts. Joe has played at such legendary festivals as Boom, Ozora, and Universal Parallelo.
Joe is currently working on the second Sonic Species album, follow-up to debut album Unleash the Beat, at which point I can no longer talk about Joe without mentioning myself, because, as many of you know, I co-founded Sonic Species with Joe back in the good old days and wrote that album with him at our studio in Brighton. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that today. We were living together in his one-bed apartment at the time for the purpose of writing the album and gigging and just generally going full on with our music career. So we'll probably be doing some reminiscing about that. Let's go to Joe. And a quick note, we spoke with Joe for a couple minutes before he began recording at his end. Although we only have a lower quality recording of this part of the conversation, we decided to leave it in simply for the lulz. Enjoy.
Yeah, okay, I've got the headphones on. Say something.
Hello.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, it's much better actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah, okay, so let me just, I've recorded it. It's got a little bit of...
The fizzy went away after you put the headphones on.
Oh, great.
I like a bit of fizz myself.
Me too.
Recording. You like the Ableton recording then? Because it's a bit zingy. I think it's because I've got quite a lot of metal in my apartment. Metal and glass.
Metal.
It's quite minimal still.
What are we talking?
So,
Are we talking like music?
Polished chrome or stainless
yeah,
steel?
Stainless steel and shiny chrome. It's sort of my palette. My color palette is silver metal, glass.
It sounds very Ibiza.
Black and white and orange, but burnt orange.
Ibiza
A
2021.
little bit industrial, a little bit Bauhaus.
And I've got these sort of white leather sort of egg chairs. So it's like imagine kind of NASA meets kind of like retro. I mean, I haven't developed the place that much. I mean, maybe I could get maybe one decent picture. I've got quite a cool little unit there. Anyway,
Retro NASA. I like the sound of that.
exactly. NASA meets the 60s. No, it's not. I mean, there's fucking nothing much in here, really, to be honest. But, the small bits I've got.
You're making it sound amazing. It's like in my head, it's like totally like Mad Men meets like the Jetsons. Like
it is a bit Jetsons. Yeah, I've got this killer retro sofa, actually, burnt orange retro sofa. Goes nicely with the eggs. Now I need to get some Tibetan. What I want like one of those nice Tibetan symbols on a piece of paper.
I have a Tibetan friend who lives in Ibiza who you can meet. Maybe she can help.
Maybe she can paint it on the wall or something.
She likes Psytrance.
Does she? Well, I won't hold that against her.
Oh, awkward. Psytrance. Ooh.
Neither do I.
Not sure about that.
Oh, I don't know. Trying to move in other directions these days.
I don't go
you
above
serious?
120 these days, to be honest.
Yarn.
140 is so passe.
I
Gosh.
promise you, when I played my first gig, it felt so fast because I've been listening to like Frank Sinatra and stuff.
I have a picture of Joe and my partner Aino in a bar where we were playing that game where you put a celebrity's name on your head or someone else puts it and you have to guess who it is. And I gave them
Heads Up.
and I gave them both Frank Sinatra.
And did they guess it?
Yeah, Aino got hers first, and then Joe's like, "Oh, it's so obvious," not knowing that he's got also. How can you not get this? I mean,
It's so easy.
So, Joe, are you recording audio?
No, I haven't. No, I'm not yet. No, should I?
Okay.
Jesus, that was like good copy, Joe.
We're missing all this gold.
Hang on a sec. I'm recording it now. Yeah, it looks all right. I mean, my voice is fucking a little bit unstable. I mean, sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's loud.
I guess just try to sit quite close to it if possible.
I am. I'm almost hunched over, doubled over in pain trying to get this to fucking...
I've got it taped to my face. Is that not good enough?
I've got it running through 15 limiters and fucking...
Is there music?
No, I haven't got music. I don't listen to music.
Oh, it's music. Oh, it's coming out my window. I've got a neighbor having a wedding. It's Goa.
Oh my God! Can you just lean out the window and say, "Excuse me, do you mind? We're trying to record a podcast."
I tried earlier. It didn't work.
Can you just put a leash on this the most joyous day of your life?
Just lean out the window with a decibelmeter and it just sort of...
Dude, the volume is intense.
I think it's when I laugh, it's clipping. It clips a bit when I laugh. Yes, all right, there. A bit of limiting on Ableton, never hurt anybody, did it? Just ram it through the roof. Skrillex and all that.
Just make some sweet dubstep. So, Joe, you're joining us from Ibiza, stretched back on a sun lounger, I trust?
That's right, yeah, sipping on a pina colada.
Good.
And working on my non-existent tan, working on my neck tan. I'm always trying to even that out. But yeah, no.
The lobster tan.
No, not quite. No, I didn't get that far with it. It's just more of a kind of, t-shirty. But, you do what you can, right?
That's
Lucky
a hard
it's still
one.
sunny over here. Where are you guys? I mean, you're in Finland, Alex.
Yeah.
And are you in India, my darling?
I'm still in Goa, dude.
In Goa, wow.
Well, because why leave, right? America's not in good shape.
Is it not?
It's not very. It's like total lockdown again. Extreme surge in cases.
Oh, that's no good, is it?
# it's better in Goa.
I think by April it should be all.
Yeah.
Yeah, April's when I'm planning to go home. Spring is nice. Anyway, what's the point of going now? It's
April
winter.
2025, 2026, that kind of thing.
You've got the date for the whole pandemic being over, have you, Alex?
Yeah. I'm not allowed to say it on air. So.
Oh, no? Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah. I'll message you later. It's a lot longer than you'd expect. Funny that.
Oh, yeah?
God. Yeah, I thought it was going to be next year. It's way off. Yeah.
What? Nice to have a bit of a breather, sometimes, isn't it?
Oh no, there's like a sort of interval planned. We get about 6 months off, and but then we slide back into it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
sorry
right.
about that.
It sounds bleak.
Yeah. Well, at least there's 6 months. I mean, that's going to be good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to be allowed to go out and stuff, or?
Oh, I wasn't given that deeply classified.
You weren't given that. Okay, well, no worries. Just keep me up to date, because obviously if there's going to be 6 months of freedom, then I can plan a holiday.
Hey Joe, I suggest coming to Goa if you want. You can have 8 months if you like.
I'm going to Bali, actually.
Are you? I think Asia's okay because either they're underreporting or it's okay. I don't know.
No, I don't know really what's going on there, but I mean, I've got my reasons to pop over to Bali for a couple of months.
I have to know what they are.
Should we take a guess?
Well, I mean, it's a multitude of things,
Taxidermy?
but it's, taxidermy is one thing, they're big on stuffed rabbits. I mean, you just can't get them like you can get in Ubud. You just can't.
Yeah.
No, I'm going there to develop another project I'm working on. Well, I can't really say anything more about that at the moment. And also, it's a nice place, Bali, and
Is it like intergender relations?
What would you mean, dating?
Yeah, date.
No, it's nothing. No, it's no intergender. No, I mean, hopefully
You said
there'll be
multitude, so I'm just like, I'm throwing it out there.
Oh no! But hopefully there'll be some intergender relations happening.
Okay,
right. But it's not. That's not the reason for the trip. No.
Fair
It's
enough.
Yeah. Anyway, so but I tell you, Ibiza, you could be in a lot worse places.
That's how I feel about here.
Yeah. Well, it's better here, but
Ibiza.
I'm joking.
It's not, dude. It's so nice here. We have parties and everything.
Is the Ibiza club scene happening right now?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we've got 20,000 people every night in clubs over here.
No, but really,
Yeah, it's like No, we haven't. They're all closed.
right.
They're all going into. Some of them are going into virtual reality. A friend of mine, Tom Jenkins, is working with a couple of the clubs here. Tom, you know Tom, and he said this afternoon they're launching Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike in VR. So there's a cool VR platform they've been working on. Anyway, I'm keen to see that. I think that was that was an hour ago. So yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say that I had the idea like a year ago when
We were talking about it.
Yeah, someone was like, I put out an Instagram poll, which was like, it was about climate change and like all the flights happening. And someone had said something about like partying's impact. I was like, well, okay, well, like, how would people feel if you had like a virtual club where you could have like the most amazing lineup from the whole world and they were just tuning in live, and people were like, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But that was going on. It's been going on anyway. That's been going on for a while. People doing selling tickets for online events. I mean, maybe it wasn't going on when you thought of it, but
This is pre-COVID. This was
it was already going on pre-COVID. I mean, it's already a concept, I think.
Look, man, it was my idea.
Look, we're going to get involved.
And I'm trademarking it.
If I had a dime for every genius idea I've had that somebody else has made like billions out of.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I'd be a zillionaire.
You'd be a billionaire. And I had the idea first for the the clothes line that is got an umbrella coming out of the top. So those circular things you hang clothes on. Pull it up. Comes out, umbrella goes over the top. I mean,
Wait, sorry. Can you run me through that again?
What? It's
Umbrella?
a circular clothes line with an umbrella coming out of the top, so you don't have to go out in the garden to take your clothes in when it's raining. See what I mean?
Oh,
it's good for the British Isles.
It's good for it would have saved a lot of time for my mum back in the old days.
Look, I have an idea. I think that the music world should take a page out of like the NBA.
Oh yeah, you want to do like Psytrance playoffs?
Yeah, well, no, but like they managed to have like virtual audience. Like people were like streaming in from their houses, and like them, like their actual faces and their like reactions and stuff were like streamed live, like seat by seat.
Well, it is how, I mean, yeah, the faces, that's interesting.
Yeah, they put a screen on each seat.
That's
It
cool.
takes a lot of money and a lot of bandwidth, I guess.
That's cool. I still think, you know, how difficult can it be to create a cool virtual space and have people with the headset? Me and my friend just got the top of the range new Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
And you know, you could put on one of them, go something, and maybe that's what they're doing this afternoon with this VR event. But I mean, that's the one, I think, isn't it? If
It's virtual reality is the new thing, isn't it?
And augmented reality as well. So, you know, we were talking about the other day, you know, you could potentially do something like with Boom Festival, for example, if you had cameras around a dance floor, a little bit Big Brother. Yeah. But then people could buy tickets that weren't able to physically be there. They could be there in their headsets.
Yeah.
And then people in the festival could be, if they wanted to, they could wear augmented reality glasses that would show them the people that were there in VR.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the dance floor, so you'd be dancing with a combination of, you know, and none of those people would be able to spill your drinks, you know. So it's a win-win.
That's the future, baby.
Aren't we kind of hoping that like by the end of like next year we're going to be into the clear?
I mean, what's your prediction for the first clear like summer, 2022? Right?
That's what I'm hearing.
2022. By which point, Joe, you might be hoping to have a new album out?
Yeah, well, that's it. If I haven't got it by 2022, I'll be hanging up the towel, I'll tell you. I wanted to have one before the end of this year, but there's been, you know, I'm still working on it. And to be honest, I've been doing a variety of stuff as well because, you know, there's no gigs. So, you know, for the first, you know, lockdown happened whenever, I think it was, March, was it? I can't remember when.
Yeah, March.
And I actually got hold of my new studio in Ibiza in December, but I didn't get my new monitors, Focal SM9s, which are the best monitors I've had, and the studio is the best studio I've ever had. So the Focals came in April. So really in April, I've had the first, you know, real professional studio. My old housemate Pat built it with his Zephyrus Kane from Nano. Pat built it with his bare hands, you know, to the golden ratio dimensions, you know, so it's a perfect studio and it's huge and it sounds impeccable and those speakers are the right size for the room. Yeah. So really that situation has only been there since April. So I spent the whole of lockdown just getting into, you know, making beats and bass lines and frequencies and mixing and, you know, got rid of a load of the tunes I was working on because they just weren't that good, you know. Sometimes you just got to accept the fact that, you know, they're just not that good, you know, and just make something better. And that was the thing that also brought me in lockdown. It was like, you know, I was making music and then, you know, I had time to focus on, you know, getting really under the hood with the production, you know, which I hadn't had a chance to do like that before because I hadn't had a professional studio with proper big monitors that are really good at the same time. Number one, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I mean, yeah, to have a pro setup like that, you know, is this is not a small thing.
Sure.
So that's the first time I've had that. So, you know, I've been going into that deep, and obviously not having to go away every weekend and travel like that has meant that I've been able to really focus in on the production because, you know, what I'm looking for in my music is, you know, production's such a fundamental part of the trance music. So what I want is I just want like fat beats that you're just so fat you don't even need any other sounds, and then you know you could just listen to them on repeat. You know,
I'm so down with that.
Good, you know what I mean? And then any sounds you have are extra, and that's great. But you should be able to listen to the beat on its own with the bass line rocking, and maybe just, you know, there's always maybe a couple of sounds to keep it going. But I wanted to get into that level, you know, and that's why I've spent the last 7 months or whatever it is just making beats a lot. You know, I've been making tunes, but I've been making a lot of beats, trying to find that way of just creating something that is I call it sustainable grooves.
Like PHAT, fat.
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, do you know what I mean? So that's really been what's going on.
I mean, it was kind of it was like Crystal Sequence, right, by Asterix. That was that kind of era, with that track specifically, when we were back in the day, sort of obsessively referencing the music we love. Like there was something like that track was like a perfect.
Always Asterix, like always.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's always those underground
it rolls on its own steam, and it just has very tasteful little splashes of sound on top of it. But there's at no point do you feel like it needs to like kind of get up and start running around. It's just sort of laid back and just floating on its own momentum.
Totally. And there's a lead at the end, but it's by that point you've already had so much uptime from basically just beats and a few sounds. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. And I think that's like when I listen to people's demos and works in progress, and maybe people who are still kind of working on their production, I think it's so common to like keep adding sounds and keep adding more leads, more layers, more effects, more squelch, and more squeaks, and more FM, and even more FM, and it's all just compensating for the fact that the underbeat isn't rolling enough.
Totally.
You know, and because like when you've really got the kick, bass, percussion, and then just those. I would achieve that through like the lower mid layers, the electro lines, as I used to call them, and very sort of like laid back grids. Once you have that, the kind of like no actual active sounds, but just kind of a sort of throbbing atmospheric kind of underbeat, then you're just like, maybe I'll put a sound, maybe I won't.
Exactly, because then that's where it's at, because it's like. And that's why I spent all this time making beats, because when you're right, you know what it's like, Alex, when you're writing a tune on top of a beat that's not like fat and properly produced, you write a different tune. If you've got a beat that's
story of my life, guys.
Yeah, exactly, and it's the story of most people's life, because it is hard to produce a beat, to the standard that you're happy to just fucking listen to that beat and nothing else, but. I do think the thing I've been doing since lockdown is I've been really trying to get the beats just set as good as I can get them, and that before I start writing the tune, because the kind of tunes I write when I've done that are completely different.
Yeah.
And then you can get into this cool rocking, sometimes minimal, but it's not, because you got such a powerful beat.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have lots of sounds, and one of the beauties. One of the things I found really cool about that recently, in a track that I'm working on for my album, is that I can have the sounds 10 times louder than I ever could have before, because there's just one big sound happening at one moment, and a beat and a bass line. So some of these sounds, they're like they sound so loud, and it's just because there's not 20 sounds trying to play at the same time.
There's no compromise happening. It's just less is just like so much more. And when you're in that place where the kick, bass, and percussion isn't quite there, then I think what makes it so frustrating is that you're adding really good sounds and it doesn't sound right, and you're like, but I don't know what more I can do if I'm adding good stuff and the track's not sounding right. Like, you might not realize that you're cycling through gold, and it's never going to work. You got to go back to the foundations and work on that. What's your method for improvement? Are you referencing like how?
I am referencing, but those speakers, those Focal SM9s.
It's the Focals.
Yeah, the reason I've not had Focals before, I've got friends. Bone and X Noise uses Focals, and he's obviously very, very good producer, but these ones are big Focals with a passive radiator on the top, and they're a little bit like the Barefoots, but they haven't got an active subwoofer on top. They've just got a passive radiator, but there's some technology that gives them a nice amount of bass. They're big speakers, but the reason I got them is because, a little plug for Focal, is that they translate very well. All the people that use them, Grouch actually has a pair, and I think he was speaking to me, and I was
Boom.
few people.
Sold.
There you go. Exactly. Grouch's mixes are phenomenal. And anyway, so these speakers, they're renowned for good translation. It was these speakers, and I got a good deal on them, but I think it was like $3,500, and for the same size, or maybe it was 4, but they were an open box, they called it. But the same size Barefoots are like 13, 14 grand. And I have worked on them because lots of my friends have them. And I've got to say, I prefer the sound of my ones. It sounds more vibing to me.
They break in, don't they?
Yeah, they're breaking in, and but I've been trying lots of different kinds of music on them as well. And it does translate. So as much as I do reference, I'm not like insanely referencing. I'm just getting it to sound massive on those speakers, and generally that's coming out sounding good on everything. So that's. Yeah. But it's been weak. It's been. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's since the lockdown happened. I've been in there doing, working on a beat, a kick and a bass and a percussion for a week, 2 weeks. Sure. Fiddling with it, and then finding my new ways of doing it and getting it to sound fat, and then speeding up. I went in there the other day and I did it in a couple of hours. So it speeds up, but it's just finding those. I never really felt like my production had got to a point that I was happy with it, and since lockdown, this is the first time that it's getting in a direction where I can start going. Okay, now we're playing with something which has got the potential to be very good. It's still not there yet, but having that space in those speakers and the time.
I think you can feel like you can trust those speakers, so it gives you a lot more freedom to like go, hey, I like how this sounds, so it must sound good.
That's right. That's why I think they're enjoyable, because I was making stuff on them and checking it on the phone or checking it wherever, and it most of the time it's sounding good, so you can trust them. Which is really, really, that's a nice feeling to be able to trust.
Trust is everything, as we know, guys.
When you have that thing of like, I don't know if that is right, but it sounds right, and then you hear it on a car and it sounds good, you're like, yes, like when my instinct was right, and when you can trust your instinct, that's such a huge thing.
It's priceless.
I also have to say that everything you said, like over the last 2 minutes about like feeling like your production was getting there, like, mate, we were having like the exact same chat like 12 years ago. Like, I think I have to call,
but it's really getting there now.
I have to call that, because it's like, it's seriously like word for word is what we would have said when we were working on the first Sonic Species album, of like, you know what? I think we fucking like got up the next level, and it's like you never get there. I think the satisfaction increases, doesn't it? The satisfaction of.
Are you saying I'm 12 years behind Joe? Because that's exactly how I feel now.
No, I'm saying that it never stops. I'm saying
you probably felt before the first album is like how I feel now. So
I'm saying that you're never going to leave there, because
but that's a good thing. It's healthy.
Yeah, I think you can get to a point. I think. I do. Obviously, Alex is right in the sense that you're always going to be wanting to improve, but there is a point that people can get to where they're genuinely like any sound system you play it on, and it sounds like the fattest tune of the party. Obviously, when you reach that point, you're good. So that's it, and just finding out your way of getting to that stage, because we do have to go out there. Well, we used to anyway. And play these tunes to people, and how it comes across on the dance floor. I mean, the amount of times I get to witness it firsthand. A great tune, production's maybe not as good as it could be, and the people move differently. And then someone else plays something that's maybe not as good a tune, but it sounds fat, and it's just the dynamic changes. You can see how people dance when the production's done. Like, so it sounds good on these big sound systems. Obviously you can get away with what you can get away with, but when you've been in the game for a while, like we have, then you really there's that's the thing that I want, and I won't be satisfied until I've cracked that code, and and I've got a lot closer since lockdown. That's what, but I haven't, it's not like I've written albums worth of finished tracks, but I mean, I've got millions of sketches I'm working on.
We all have, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all about catching. You know what happened for me? I was like in there in the studio just making beats. Oh, finally I got to go to D sharp and D and C and be able to hear the low frequencies, because I couldn't do that before because I didn't have enough size on the cones to really hear that low. So that was great. And I just hit upon one tune in D sharp. I just got this groove going, and it reminded me of that classic outdoor liquid connective kind of. And I was just like, that is what I'm fucking talking about. And then I found all these kind of like horns of like orc horn.
The battle horns.
Yeah.
I sort of wish I could come hang out with you in Ibiza for a little bit. Just check it out.
And you know, so I worked on that tune. I was like, man, this is, and it's different to my other stuff because it hasn't got the kind of pentatonic, cheeky kind of like, you know, uplifting melodies. I've done a kind of, it's a darker one. It's, I guess, minor harmonic or whatever. And but it's not. It's just what it is. I'm not deliberately doing minor harmonic notes. It's just the tonal things of the sounds I've got in there is just darker, but darker in a Lord of the Rings way. You know, darker like the you know, when they're marching on, you know, Helm's Deep. It's sort of that vibe.
That's good. That's a sick vibe.
Yeah, it's that. And I'm like, you know what? I like that. I like hearing myself do something different. And that's been, you know, that experimentation has been obviously helped by the fact that I've not had to go away every 5 minutes and be chasing the next release. Because, you know, there's been a lot of that for me over the last few years, just, you know, releasing tracks. And, you know, yeah, I'm happy with them in a sense. But frankly, if I could turn back the hands of time, I probably wouldn't have released half of the tracks that I did. But, you know, you're with your mates and you're in the studio and it sounds fat and you're having a great time and you're putting out music because, you know, that's what you do, isn't it? And you're promoting it and you're keeping your profile going. But the lockdown was a really good moment for me just to sit back. When I got this Horns of Gondor vibe, I'm just like, you know what, that is what I'm fucking talking about. And I said to myself then, I said, right, this album and anything I do that from now on, because it gave me goosebumps, and I got a little clip of it on the phone of the drop at the end, and I played it to a few friends of mine over the phone, and they all got goosebumps. Oh, well, I don't know if I've got it here actually. Hang on a sec.
Oh, of course you have. I bet you got it in your hand with your finger just like quivering over the play button. Like,
I might have it on a WhatsApp.
Should I?
Don, I sent it to him.
No, you have to play it. We're not moving on until you play it.
It's still rough. Hang on, it's still rough. Wait, maybe it's it.
Oh, it's not mixed,
not
guys.
Work
in progress.
God, what pictures? It's so funny when you go back through and see. Oh, there we were, completely off our tits, driving a boat around Ibiza. Christ knows how they let us do that. That was incredible. We got busted for just pulling donuts in the middle of the ocean on this little boat. They were like, stop it. And then we just did it again. They were like, stop it.
That's so industry, man. I wanted to ask about, like, because you were talking about that low slung D sharp kind of track, and when I met you in probably 2004 or 5.
Yeah.
That was your vibe. That very low slung,
wasn't it?
Vibe. So it almost sounds like you're kind of going back to your roots a bit. You know,
it feels like that. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just remarkable to me to like see like someone who, you know, has been sort of chasing, as we all are as artists, like chasing a sound. It's great to, like, to have that motivation, but to have that motivation to like make a sound.
Yeah.
You know, it was certainly very much what drove us when we were writing the first album as well. that kind of
absolutely.
Like it's that thing which keeps you going until 8 o'clock in the morning in the studio or 1 p.m. the next afternoon. It's like you just have to get that sound.
That's it.
And after a while, you realize that no one else, like people, you're like, that sound. People are like, what sound? You're like, holy shit! People don't even know about this sound. Like I'm like a messenger. Like I have to like divine this to you, because like, isn't that what keeps us going as artists? Is like, the world needs to hear that sound, and I would explain to people who are maybe at the same party as I'd been at, like, remember when that guy played that track, and they're like, yeah. And when you're talking to someone and you realize that they don't really know what you're talking about at all, and
care as much as you do.
Yeah, people don't get it.
You know what? I don't know if the two of you realize how special and rare it is to have had that, that level of friendship and like artistic camaraderie, to where you can just be like, yeah, dude, let's just fucking stay in the same house together and just be like so excited about shit and be like, oh wow, that's so cool. Wow, did we just make this? That's amazing. Like, that's like, it's amazing to do it on your own as well, but to have that, like, I wish I had somebody like that. You know what I mean?
No, that's about doing it with, when we were doing it together, it's magic, because,
it's that friendship kind of drives it. Like, it's so great.
Well, it's also the buzz, because you were both, the thing about me and Alex is we were able to, we knew all of the different expressions of trance that we loved, and we had all the same sort of like ways of talking about them. So we'd be like,
which is so rare, right?
And that's
like you can
cool.
only have that with like your best friend. Like,
yeah. We used to speak in sigh, I would be, we'd just be like, that is great, and that's a buzz, and that's a buzz. You're both trying to capture that vibe, and before you know it, you're just making music, trying to capture a vibe, and everyone else whether they even knew that vibe existed or not, and then you just
because the vibe that you had went into that music that you made, like whether it's on the computer or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I hate to talk about like energy and stuff, but it does go in, like.
Oh, totally. Well, the thing is, because what me and Alex did, it's still the same for when I'm writing trance. If I do it in this modus, is that me and Alex used to remember like the peak moments of like the peak parties of our lives, and we would use that memory as inspiration. It's that feeling, it's that level of intensity, or whatever you want to discuss it. It can be expressed in so many different styles, but that's the fundamental thing that we always wanted, and I still want, is that level of that's something that hits you on that level. Maybe it'll be more funky, maybe it'll be, and it's so great. There's even in one genre like psytrance, there's so many different ways to express that intensity. It can be like some epic glitched out morning kind of like uber funk sigh, or it could be like the most rocking kind of Lord of the Rings kind of like low key, just like end of festival, everyone's covered in mud, and the future of the universe kind of vibe, or whatever. There's so many different ways to do it, and it's great to be able to touch on all those things. But what I said to myself when I got this tune going in D sharp, and it gave me the goosebumps, I was just like, what, everything has to give me that feeling now.
Goosebumps, yeah.
Yeah, because I've put too many tunes out that I guess didn't do that, and it was just because you do it with your mate and then whenever they want to release it. Before you know it, you've got millions of tunes out, and you haven't even spent much time on your own doing your music, because you're always doing it with other people, So that's something that's easy to fall into that, especially for me, because when I left Brighton, the last place me and Alex worked was a studio in Brighton, and I guess when I left Brighton, it was about whatever year it was. Anyway, it was about 2012 maybe, or something like that. Or 2013, but since then I haven't had a studio until April. Just happened. So I've had workspaces, sure, but I haven't had a proper studio, and even the one in Brighton. So in that sense, and you're traveling all the time, so I end up doing music with other people in their studios, and it's all very good fun. But of course, that can also dilute your and that's what I've realised as well recently, is that I realised that, hang on a sec, it's all very well doing music with other people, but I put a stop to it. I've got a track coming out tomorrow, but I mean, that was with Rick Tam and Chelly here. And
I saw that.
That was good fun. But
was it about having your own space?
Yeah, it was well, I mean, I just, this year, I said to myself, look, I'm not going to actively try and put out any music until I put my album out, which will have basically mostly solo tracks in it, because I just realised it's important to just take a step back and just crystallise myself in the music, rather than doing your tracks here and tracks there. No, don't get me wrong, we've had some great times here making music, but it needs to be balanced with, releasing solo tracks, and those solo tracks need to be done to a level that excites me. And that D sharp one that I keep speaking about, really really has hit a spot for me. So now I'm just like, what? Better to wait. Yeah, I've got a track coming out tomorrow, whatever. But it generally, like, better to wait and to get something really, really, really that I really connect with, and put that out, whether it's a single or an album. Personally, for me, I'm probably only going to do albums from now on. In terms of, there'll be single tracks and stuff, but I'm not going to deliberately go out of my way to knock out loads of singles. My plan now is I'm going to do this album, and then next year, that's my new plan. Basically, all those tracks that get released as like singles with your mates and all the rest of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the album. Maybe it'll be the end of this year, maybe it'll be spring or something, and then that'll be a solid album of mostly solo tracks. And then the following year, I'll make an album of Sonic Species and Friends, and all of those tracks that I do with my friends can go on a CD, or can go on an album of their own. And I'm going to call that Supersonic Volume 1.
We're friends, right, Joe?
Yeah, we're friends, yeah. So you can make. So I'm going to make an album series out of all those tracks, because I think, having things in an album length release, you create something. I can create my Supersonic Volume 1, Supersonic Volume 2, and that can go on over the years. So now what I want to do is 1 year make a solo album, the next year put out Supersonic Volume 1, then the next year do another solo album, and so on and so forth. And not leave as big a gap in between. But, that's just something you learn, isn't it? All the time on the road and the rest of it, and, different priorities. For me, I could have stayed in England, and, I would have had a studio probably for a long time by this point and the rest of it. But, I chose to leave England and live in a variety of different places around Europe until I found a place where I wanted to settle down for any length of time, which is Ibiza. And, it's taken me a good 8 years or something to do that. And now I've got a studio, and now I can begin, the next phase. And it's just, that's just the life I chose. But I'm happy I did. Obviously, it's a shame I wasn't able to focus a little bit more in the last 8 years. In hindsight, having a studio and everything. But you know what? It is what it is. And I love where I'm at now. And my studio is incredible. So, I'm just going to carry on from now. It's, So it's the life you choose.
The golden era of music was where you had long players, right? And like, it's the same at a party. You don't want to have a 45-minute, 1 hour DJ set. You want to have like a 2 hour set. So why would it be any different when you're actually releasing music? It's like you're talking about.
Well, quite right.
You're talking about a feeling that you have, and the feeling that you get from that D sharp track is in the context of you, right? So if you drop that track in amongst a bunch, if you drop that track in out of context, then people don't have the sort of atmosphere in which to necessarily truly appreciate it. But having the longer album form, maybe you'll make that track, track 4, track 5, so people you've already got people into place, and then you bring out that sort of secret weapon, and then their people are primed to hear that, because that's it's something that we caught up with Regan on the podcast like a year or two ago, and he was saying that and I found this really illuminating. It really stuck with me. He was saying that like the flip sides, or or sort of negative aspect of the sort of singles culture is that the album tracks are the tracks that tend to end up becoming our favorite tracks, right? When you go back to your favorite albums as a fan of an artist, whoever it is, in whatever genre, you go back to your favorite albums, it's those album tracks.
They're normally album tracks.
The ones that would never be released as a single, those often turn out to be the real gold ones, you know? And when you're releasing a single, you're kind of throwing all your magic tricks into the pot. Right, but with the album track, you'd be like, okay, I've pulled out all these tricks on the album. I'm gonna make a track which is like a bit random, a bit weird, kind of like maybe comes off a bit of a left field idea, and it's just different. Like those are the album tracks.
Yeah, and I think you can explore, when you're making an album, you can explore a bit more because, you're going to have a consolidated sort of vibe. If you're doing a single and I suddenly, don't get me wrong, sometimes I want to make a 135 BPM track or sometimes I want to make hip hop or something. But within reason, if I wanted to just do a funky, groovy, progressive track and I had to do a single, I probably wouldn't do that. Not because I didn't want to, but just because... I'd have to be thinking about, keeping on brand a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you have a single, people want to hear that quintessential sonic species thing. So you kind of throw your signature moves into the mix.
Yeah, and I don't do that on purpose. But I think the thing is, it's if you're only releasing once in a while, then you just do what you do. And I don't really sit down and think, I'm going to make this really sonic species because it's just who you are. But it is nice to actively switch off some of those elements that are quintessentially sonic species and then put some other stuff in. That's been really good fun, the darker, more the serious vibe.
But it's all about growth, right? You're showing growth now.
Exactly, and that's great, and there'll be all of that other stuff as well in the different ways. And but you know what gets me buzzed is writing music that doesn't even sound like I've written it. That's a trip. That's like, fucking hell, where did that come from?
Yeah. It almost feels voyeuristic listening to it.
Well, as long as it excites you, it doesn't bore you.
Yeah, obviously, someone good's written.
Someone really dark, but really good.
Yeah, totally.
Like something that, you know what I mean?
Like you feel like you've trespassed onto something. You feel like you've wandered into a weird room in a house.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to be in here.
Yeah.
But how did I get here? What do I do with this?
What's this all about? Yeah. Totally. It's almost like you're living a double life as a sort of wow.
You've been handed the keys to someone else's car. That just sounds like a swingers party, actually. But
no, it's dogging, I think they call that.
You've said voyeuristic 3 times.
Yeah. Is there something you're trying to express here, Alex?
What's going on up there in Finland?
Snow, lots of snow. I got to do my first winter driving today.
Oh yeah, how is it going with the new driving?
Oh, fucking loving it. I'll tell you what, I was never a car person before. I was a bicycle. I mean, I still am. But I was totally...
You've gone to the dark side.
Yeah, I was just indifferent to cars. Could not figure out. And now that, we moved here, very remote location, we have to get a half-hour ferry just to get to the mainland. 900 people living on the island. And it's northern Finland, so it's very, very wintry conditions now. And so driving, I know made me learn to drive. And, I've been waiting kind of my whole life to finally do that, and to pass my test was just insane.
Have you beeped at any cyclists yet and been like, get out of the road?
The only people who cycle here is the local vicar.
I was going to say a priest, and you said vicar. Yeah,
no, it really is like that. I was actually thinking today, because, I had you on my mind. We're doing the podcasts. I had you on my mind.
They were always on my mind.
I was thinking, do you remember that gig?
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. How could I forget
Sheffield.
That one? No, go on.
Oh, mate. That gig.
That one. No, go on.
The one, yeah. You know that one. We went to play in Sheffield.
Oh, that little place where I was like, can you get us a pint? And he was like, we don't do that up here.
Where's Sheffield in England? Is it northern England?
Yeah, very much Yorkshire, northern England. I do remember the pints thing. and both of us particular about our beer, but you particularly are, Joe. And you know, or you go to Amsterdam and they give you a pint and it's like 3/4 full. You're like, what the fuck are you? You know, I mean, it's English people. You have to. It's got right up to the line. I digress.
English people are particular about quantities and mathematics. Let's face it.
Look, it's a pint glass. Get it up to the line. Do not. They do this in Finland as well. They give you a glass which has way too much foam.
Half of its head.
Yeah, the foam's a trick.
Why would you want to? What is the point of the glass being the size it is?
You know what? I think it's just so they can use that little table tennis bat to wipe it off. I honestly think that's the only reason they do it.
But they don't go over the line.
No, they just swipe. They go over the line with their head and then just swipe it off. I don't know what they do with all that. Maybe they
swipe it. Because it's like a whole thing. It's a whole like show.
I know. But
fuck the show. I just want a beer, you know.
But what about that gig, Alex?
So we came out. I mean, it was just like I don't know. It's probably about this time of year, and you know, it's just like normal cold weather. And we came out, and it was snowing torrentially, and it was like
we crashed the car. I crashed the car.
We crashed the car. Yeah, we were smashed, and we like.
Into what?
Into a roundabout.
We've been in this kind of arts club in Sheffield all night. We had no idea it was snowing. We were completely unprepared, and the next thing we know, we're going to. And I remember this actually. Now it's coming back. There we are. Okay, we're going down the motorway, the M1, in Joe's like little car, like very small car, and it's like serious amounts of snow, and I thought that we were having this kind of shared experience of kind of being quite sort of shut up about the whole thing. I thought we were both like really unawares. And I was like, wow, this is like pretty intense. And there was like huge lorries all around us. And I remember looking at you and you were just like, yeah. And you're just like looking at your fucking phone, like texting someone. I was like, dude, are we in this or what? Like, anyway, no. But the crash was not you driving irresponsibly. It was just we were going to a roundabout, and I think just we're going a bit too fast.
It was just we braked, and it had that great slow-mo moment of me and you looking at each other as we're sliding towards the roundabout, going, "We're in the middle of having a car accident."
Yeah, it's always slow-mo when you're having a car accident. It's always slow motion. And I just want it to be said on record, snow or no snow, there's way too many roundabouts in Europe. Just saying.
They have a thing in Finland, which I think they have like in Germany, and I don't know if you're aware of this in your driving around Europe, the equal junction.
What's that all about?
It's a junction, right? It's a junction of two equally big roads, and you have to give way. So it's like a 4-way junction, right? You have to give way to a driver if they're coming in from the right. So if you go to the junction and there's someone coming in from the rightward road, you have to give way to them, unless they have a yield sign, in which case they have to give way to you. Now, how do you know? How do you know if they have a yield sign? As you're approaching this junction, and this could be in the middle of the night, or this could be in snow or rain, you have to get your fucking binoculars out and see if they have a sign, which is just the side of a piece of metal.
What?
So, and that's how you know.
Well, come on. Why don't they just put traffic lights there? That's ridiculous.
Or why don't they just tell you if they have a sign? Why do you have to see? How do you know if someone else has a sign?
Why don't they have double-sided signs? That seems crazy.
But in Germany, they have an X mark, which, so you get a sign and they get a sign. In Finland, only they get a sign, and you have to see if they have a sign. Sorry, wow, I shouldn't have brought it up. I shouldn't have brought it up.
Just let it go. Let it go, Alex. It's all right.
It's just. Anyway, there we were in the middle of the roundabout, and the first thing we did after we crashed our car, you and me, is we just burst out laughing.
That's what you do.
That was it.
Well, it was in the dead of night. There was no one there. It was all fine. I don't think the car was damaged.
Nothing bad happened.
No, nothing bad happened, and it was all laughed off, and so no, good memories, man. It was intense going to all these funny little parties, isn't it? Driving to a party in the north of England from Brighton. We used to drive in my car. We would get a call on a Friday. We'd be in the studio, and then someone would say, "Right, you're booked for a party in a squat party or party in the woods or something." And then you would go there, and sometimes it would be great, and sometimes you'd get there, and there'd be like 5 people on the dance floor, and they'd be like, "Sorry, we can't pay you any money," and there's no point playing.
Yeah, because we always played the morning sets. We were like morning trance, whatever the fuck that is.
Hey, did y'all ever play at the Vokes in Brighton?
Of course, yeah. Oh yeah. Intimate. And it was intimate, and that was great. I loved the gigs in the Vokes.
Clayton Bazaar.
Clayton, yeah. Clayton, cool. I love that bunch.
The buzz of playing a tiny room like that versus playing a big festival, I actually found to be more palpable.
Come on,
sometimes.
The sound is so bad in those small clubs. That's the issue. Everything's like booming at you.
No, but you're like 2 feet away from a wall of sweaty people who are thrashing to your music, whereas like some of the big festivals are like you're like 30 feet away from people. You have to squint just to see if people are even enjoying the music, But in Volks, it's just like
that's true. Yeah,
I like those shows.
I think I have like 95% experience just in like those kind of smaller places. I'm ready for the like distance. Ready.
Yeah, I tell you what. I mean, look, Boom Festival. I gotta say, and Azora.
Yeah.
But Boom really struck me this year, or whenever it was I played the last time.
Tell me
I can't
about
remember. What year is it now? 2020. Oh yeah, would have been 2 years ago then. 2018, the last time there was a Boom Festival.
Go on.
I played like it was the opening act, then it was Emok, then it was me, right? So I was the first. He was playing proggy, so it was the first psytrance beat of the festival. So, and I tell you, man. That energy, and you are, of course, you're miles away from the crowd, but man, it's fucking so hyped on that beginning. I mean, it's fucking intense.
I think when it's that many people, you better be that far away. Otherwise, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I didn't get nervous. That's the funny thing. But me and Alex played there quite a few years ago, and I think it's the 3rd time I'd played there. But it was just pure buzz, and I love that because if you can not,
I was there.
If you can, were you there? Cool, yeah. I remember. I know you don't want to get off when you're playing in a gig like that, and I just thought to myself, man, that's what I'm talking about, and what I just thought, wouldn't that be great to do something like that every weekend? But of course. There's only ever a couple of, really there's nothing quite like Boom Festival, and there's nothing quite like Azora. Brazil has big parties, which are also incredible, but a completely different vibe. But, I love that so much. I love small parties as well, but as far as big parties go, that always sticks in my head, and especially that opening time. I just thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if there was a few more parties like that, because it's like you're you're in a cockpit of a spaceship with like for 30,000 people. I mean, that is, that's what you want to be doing, and but sadly, we've only got a handful of things like that, and like I said, they're all different. So there's nothing quite like Boom, and that's once every 2 years. Obviously, if you're lucky enough to get booked. For it. So, but small parties also have their intensity. We've had great experiences on both ends of the spectrum. But, it would be great if there was a few more gigs like Boom Festival, to be honest, for me, that's a big highlight. And like I say, it only happens once in a while.
You wouldn't want to have Christmas more than once a year, though, would you?
I would, yeah. I do. I don't know, every day. No, I would. Look, if you said to me, you're going to play in a party that as good as Boom Festival or Azora Festival peak time every single weekend, twice every weekend, I'd be like, bring it on. That's what we do it for, really, and small parties as well. But that you don't get to do that, of course, unless you're like playing, stadium gig, unless you're Skrillex or something like that, or then you've got access to that. But obviously in psytrance, it's more the medium-sized parties, and the rest of it are the ones you play most of the time, which are amazing as well. But who knows? Anyway, maybe after this pandemic, there'll be we can bring some new festivals in. I'd love to organise a festival myself one day.
Me too.
I mean, not organise it. I mean, just have someone else organise it. But I'll be like the visionary. You know what I mean?
Build it, and they will come.
Get someone else to make the phone calls. Exactly. No, so maybe we can all get together and make a festival by the artists for the people. That would be. I always thought that would be a good idea. Do something cooperatively owned by artists, record labels. Get Regan involved. Other record labels, Iboga, Nano, lots of artists. I think there's a concept there that could be something really cool, and then we just do it every week forever, and that's it.
It was nice to hear you kind of look back at that festival time, because it's actually a question that we've been asked at Futurephonic. I've been asked personally, like quite a few times, by people who haven't yet got to experience that feeling of playing to a very big crowd. And I kind of think that it's like something that everyone has to experience on their own, and it's like a very like individual experience. And I also think that it's like an experience that has been kind of like commodified in our internet era, because it's like, because there's so many people with this sort of the POV cam, the kind of like, I feel like a majority of shots that you see now on an artist profile are actually from their perspective, whereas it never used to be that way, but now it's like you feel like you can be that artist because you see what they see, you see the crowd looking at you, not the other way back. But I still want to ask you, like, although you kind of already said it, but like, what does it feel like to play to 20,000 people?
Well, I mean, it depends what 20,000 people they are, doesn't it, really? And, certainly something like Boom Festival or Azora Festival in a peak. I remember the first time I played Azora, it was the best gig of my life. It was 2012, just after the album came out. And I got, anyway, Husto gave me the slot he cancelled someone and suddenly gave me this 5 p.m. closing slot. On the second to last day. Tristan closed the last day, I closed the Saturday, whatever it was, the day before, and it was like this double rainbow, and like, man, it was just, and I'd never played a big festival slot like that before, and it really was just like, I mean, stepping into a whole new version of yourself, and seeing the reaction, of course. That's if you get a good reaction, and then that gives you energy. And Boom Festival is very much the same when you're, and this is where it comes down to, being happy with the music you're playing as much as you can be, because, if you can really try and put the effort in to make sure that it's going to be sounding, up to par, then you can have it. Then you'll be able to more easily have a good time. There's nothing worse than standing in front of 20,000 people, like in Brazil. I've done that many times, and then they're more, they don't really want to hear your music really, because it's not got the drops. And I remember the first time I played in Brazil, it wasn't 20,000 people, but it was whatever it was. And the people don't dance because I didn't realize what they like in Brazil. And it's not like I can engineer all my music for Brazil, but you could do edits and whatever, but to give them a bit more of a dynamic kind of thing they like. But sometimes they're not interested in what you're playing, and that's the time when 20,000 people is, you'd be better off with 200 people, Frank,
Yeah.
But when you get it right, and it's incredible, man. And to look back on those, I mean, that is just, especially when you've got a good vibe and you're playing music that's really hitting the spot, and you see people just, and that's what me and you did it for, Alex, was we were making music we were looking for people to have that same kind of like engaging kind of like dance floor experience to what we had, the same as what we had. And that's when we see people doing that, that's when you really get that buzz. That's it. It's as simple as that. Whatever music you do to get that is up to you. But when you see people locking into that groove, especially on a big scale, or even when you see it, like even at a medium festival, if there's not, you can see that fucking thing happen where people just lock in together, and it becomes that hive, sort of synchronized sort of hive groove mentality.
It's happening again.
It's happening. I almost feel like it was happening then. That's incredible. And of course, the times we're living in, currently, it's, I can't imagine feeling more privileged to have had, the opportunity to obviously travel around the world and play a lot of those experiences, play a lot of those festivals. And it's just, you don't know how good. I knew how good we got it, doing that as a job. I mean, it's hard to think of something else which would be a more fun way to earn a living. Do you know what I mean? I can't really think of one, frankly.
But it was, okay, once upon a time, collectively and now as individuals, it was like, it was and always will be just about that, and it's like, if you were to, I know it's almost like a cliche, like, look, I'm not doing it for the money, all right? But like really, really weren't, because
no, we really weren't. We didn't even know you could make money out of it at the beginning.
Yeah, you would not.
I spent about 4 years making music all day, every day.
I thought you were going to say I spent about 40 grand.
No, it was all about the buzz of creating the music that had got you going. That was what it was all about.
If it's anything else, like, seriously, like, you're not going to be able to stay up until 8. I mean, if the promise of money or fame does keep you up till 10 a.m. in the morning working on a track, then that's really worrying to me. If it's anything else but like the passion of just like creating those moments.
Yeah, the vibe of the music. Yeah. That's what keeps you up. Like, all the people, me and you, and all the cool people that I work with, when you're up, for days on end doing whatever, it's all about the buzz. It is all about the buzz. Of course, you're doing it for a job by that point, but what does job mean? At the end of the day, it's all about the buzz. We've found a way to earn money out of it, so that's great. But looking back, I mean, wow, what a privilege to be able to go around, delivering those experiences to people, and also receiving, all of those good vibes that the people give you back when you get it right for them. They really get it right for you. It's such a two-way thing. It's like you make the effort to give them music that is going to really make their experience just fucking out of this world. And in return for that, not that you're doing it for a return, but naturally they reciprocate by showing you that you can see how much of a good time they're having. And unless you're a sadist, then that causes you a lot of joy.
Like, before making an album, like, were you DJing the same like genre? And then
Yeah.
I was, yeah. We were both DJs before and as we started, yeah. So that's why I had a feeling for the music. Now, Alex was a very good DJ, and we both played DJ sets, and that would also help us to understand how to get a dance floor going. And then of course you've got to make music which is as good as your DJ sets, which is not a small task, but it's a good standard to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of a DJ set because it helps to break the flow. Like, if you have like an entire party lineup and you have all artists playing, then it's like literally like listening to one album after the other.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's become so much the normal thing now. And I'm with you on that. I used to really, in some of the best sets me and Alex used to have.
At least it gives you some variety and a story.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's it's like when with the way they used to do it, as you know, was be much more DJs, and there would be one or two live acts in a whole party. And the thing is, when they really got it right, those DJs would just somehow morph seamlessly into each other. So the journey, it was like a psychedelic experience from start to finish.
Because people used to play according to the person who's playing before them and after them.
Yeah, it used to just somehow slot together brilliantly. And then it becomes an extended journey, which was, I found that to be way more hypnotizing. And those parties were always the ones that stood out to us. Now it's a bit more like going to a pop concert. Now people go, okay, I want to see him, and a lot of people obviously stay on the dance floor and the rest of it. But you're right, it is, and I do DJ sets now, and part of the reason I went back I just mix on decks. Last Boom Festival in Azora, I was just
fun, right?
Mixing on decks, and I played all my music, but if I'm playing, a normal gig on the weekend, I'll give myself the freedom to, play around a bit. If I've got a few of my friends' tunes I want to play, or play some of Rick Town's tunes, whatever. Just to give myself enough freedom to really just, give them the best time they can have without being completely just sort of, don't get me wrong, it would be like, the most I'd ever be would be 30%, 70%. But it's nice to do that, because at the end of the day, it is about creating the most ultimate experience for the people that are in the party. It's not about you subjecting everyone to a load of music that's not even suitable just because you made it. I don't think there's any point doing that either. It's just, I'm not. If my tunes are not doing it at the time, then I'm not going to enjoy it, and they're not going to enjoy it. That's a lose-lose situation. So I think it's always good to be a little bit flexible, and obviously then work hard to try and make sure that your tunes are good enough, 90% of the time.
I wish I had this track.
Yeah, you don't want to be standing there like, fuck, I should have done that. Like, I'd done that, but at the same time, that will always feed back into your into your next tracks. Like you go home and think, oh, I should have. That moment had to be more like this. That moment had to be more like that. You go back and then you're like, oh, that drop needs to be more like blah, and then you like make it more blah, and you go back and then the audience goes blah, and you're like, yes, fucking nailed it. And it's just like one brick at a time. You're just like that drop. I always found like when we were doing it together, like the barometer was the first track of the DJ after we would finish our live set. Their first track, it was like when we first started playing gigs, it was like we'd feel like we ended up on a high, and then some like Billy Big Bollocks would walk in, slip in the CD deck, play a track by Atomic Pulse, and the music would just like go up to fucking 12, and you'd be like, oh man. But by the end of it, it was just like we'd finish on 10 and they'd start on 8, and you'd be like, yeah.
And you know what? I just think there's no more direct way of getting a reality check on how fat your tunes are than dropping the odd tune that's not yours in a DJ set, for example. That's also is really good reality check, because you can play all your own tunes every week and it sounds great, but it is good to drop the odd tune sometimes just to be like, hang on a sec, how fat is this? What's going on here? There's no harm in keeping up to date with the standard of your friends' beats and production. That's how people improve as well. So I think it's good to have a healthy balance of the whole thing. But
I would imagine there's also tracks that you could place that would like set your tunes up to sound even better.
Yeah, there's a couple of tracks I play in my DJ sets that I've played them for ages, and it just fits so well with my set, and it's a friend of mine's tune or something, and I've got a special mix that I do with it, and it's become, I've absorbed it into and it's sort of starting to fuse into like the style of my old DJ sets when I used to be a DJ only, and then also the Sonic Species vibe. But it's great, it's breathed a whole new dimension of life into the performance side of it, and I've been really enjoying it.
Why wouldn't you anyway? Like, I mean, I remember, I was covering a gig in Dublin. I've told this story before, but like I was in the back of the cab with the bloke from Noisia who's playing at the same party, and he just had like a CD book. And he was like, what have you got all that gear for? And I was like, well, laptop, MIDI controller. He's like, why? I was just like, well, because I'm doing a live set. He's like, so what? Like, you're only playing your own tracks? I was like, yeah. He's like, why? And then I watched him play, and he probably, of course, slipped in a few noisy tracks. I mean, he just blew the fucking roof off the place. And I was standing there. I was like, why do they make us cart this laptop and MIDI controller around and only play our own music? That's so constrictive. Why not, like, if the set's going well, why not play any other track by any other artist? Dance Floor's loving it. you're loving it. Why put the limitation on it? And most of the psytrance artists I know would rather not pretend that they're doing something other than just kind of DJing their own tracks and doing the odd bit of stuff on top. I mean, I personally always found DJing a lot more fun on a sort of...
It's so fun.
Yeah, you're mixing tracks, you're EQing them back and forth, you're EQing them, you're mixing them.
There are artists that nowadays that perhaps like sometimes go out there and play on USB, like fuck the Ableton Live or whatever.
But why? Like, it should be optional.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. I don't do Ableton or anything. I just USB sticks.
And if you're having fun, they're having fun.
I do. Look, for me, it's more live than having a pre-matched beats and doing it on a computer. You're mixing it on decks. It's also just fresh for me, and it's nice not to have to cart all the laptop and all that around. And I never got to the point where my live set was so deconstructed and reconstructed that it was really worth doing that. So it seemed like the logical way to do it, and it's really just the vibe of DJing. And don't get me wrong, most of the music I play is my music, and if it's Boom Festival or something, I'll only play my tunes because it's a big thing and you want to be, whatever. But for most of the gigs, it's nice to just have that. You don't know what you're going to play before you walk on stage. Maybe you go, oh, this might be a nice one to start with, but you're on your toes, and you've got to be able to do that, and that's a buzz. That's it's more spontaneous. You're creating.
Do you fear people's reactions? Do you fear
the reactions are better?
Do you fear someone saying, "Hey, you're not playing live. It says live."
No. I only had one person say that, and the only reason he said that was because they had such crappy decks. I couldn't quite get it perfectly in time every time. And he complained to Monique about it. But that was like years ago, and it was like 3 or 4 years ago. The first times I started doing it with USB sticks. So no, I've never had anyone say anything about it. Basically, apart from that one Italian guy. Never had it. But if you look at Asterix and those guys, they're all doing that. They're, most of the time.
They're playing 5 and 6 hour sets. Like, how can you just play your own thing? That's tough, right?
I mean, you could do if you really want to listen to 5 hours of your own music. Then great. And maybe I would if I had a few more tunes. If you're look, sometimes my music is the suitable one to play, and I'll just play that, and I won't play anything else. And sometimes it's suitable to mix it up a bit as well. So I just judge everything. If I need that classic sonic species, I've obviously got all of that. But if I need something a bit harder, for example, then it's good to have a couple of numbers in the USB stick. So I can level up to, sometimes someone's playing really hard, and it's like, maybe I want to play a little bit tougher in the beginning and then slowly bring them into my vibe. But most of the time, I don't mind if it's different. I'm happy to start. I also, by the same token, on the other end of the spectrum, I also think it's nice to come on with a different style. So, I just sometimes have like 1 or 2 tunes of mine that are really, really decent opening tracks. And it doesn't matter who's playing before. You just start with that and the place explodes, So I think you can do it both ways.
I will say, guys, I mean, there's not a single morning set I've played that I don't slap a little old school sonic species in there. Love it.
Well, I look forward to catching up with Joe again when we do our collab.
Yes.
It's going to be a bit of a one-off. I say one-off, there was one other track I did, but it's going to be a bit of a one-off trancey one for me. Do you have any kind of forecast or hopes for when the album's out, or is it just when it's out when it's out?
Well, you know what? I mean, I wanted to get it out this year, but then I haven't just been doing music the last few months. There's been something else bubbling. And so, I haven't been in there full time the last few months. So That's the reality of the times we're in. I mean, I've got to keep dynamic and keep on my toes, searching for the next sort of epic kind of situation. But I would like it to be out no later than the spring. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's all about getting those goosebump numbers in there, and it's gotta be. It cannot be anything less than earth-shatteringly epic. It just can't. I've released too many tracks that were like, I did it with a friend here, whatever. It's just for my own satisfaction. They have to be every tune's going to have to be an absolute winner. There can't be anything other than that on all the tracks for this album. So it's just that's the ethos I'm sticking to with it. So when I've got that, I've got that, and I'll wait till it's like that, because I think people do deserve that. It's been a long time since there's been a Sonic Species album, and I don't want to give them something half cut. So better to wait a little bit longer and to have something truly life changing.
Nerdy question: are you still using Cubase?
Yeah. Cubase 10, I think I'm on now. Yeah, still using Cubase. Still using the old banjo, electric banjo. That's where I get my riffs from.
Yeah.
And I've got an.
People think it's a synth.
I know it's a Yamaha electric banjo, and I've got the old oboe that I do for all of the kind of like the
filter movements.
and I've got, obviously the xylophones are in there. Yeah, so all the same stuff.
Keeping it real.
All the usual stuff.
You had that kind of.
Isn't that what everyone else uses?
There's a coffee table made out of like a sort of a log.
That's right, and
you used to just knock that. That was the Sonic Species kick drum right there. Just whacking it.
That's right.
Are you kidding?
Hollowed it out.
Yeah. The snares were a cabbage. You just sort of slap that on your hand.
Yeah.
That's the snares, and the hi hats were just. Everyone knows how to make a hi hat. You just get a microphone and go.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to be reinventing the wheel on the basic stuff. I'm just you know what I mean. But no. Anyway, no. I'm looking forward to cracking on with it and finishing it. But it's important that it's done right. I don't want to release a mediocre album. That's the last thing I want to do. And there's no point doing it. That's been the biggest thing that happened to me in lockdown, was just really just taking a step back and going. I made a lot of different genres of music in lockdown. I was creating new genres, just making music.
LA cyberfunk.
LA cyberfunk, exactly. The tron,
so cool.
All sorts. But the thing is, now it's with a bit of time to just away from the rushing of the gigs and everything. I've just been able to sit back and just go, whatever I put out from now on, it needs to be huge for me. The impact of the track on me has to be one of those fucking tunes. You know what I mean? And that's what I want now. So I'm happy that I've been able to have a step back and kind of go, that's what I'm going to go for now. Those tunes don't come along every day, but they if you're in the studio every day, then you'll get them done. It's just
go big or go home.
Are you listening to like other kinds of music as inspiration, or?
Well, I don't. It's not like I don't really need to listen to music for inspiration. I mean, the size it's there. It's just a case of getting in the studio, But I listen to all kinds of different styles of music, but to be honest, I make so much music normally. I'm more about the making than the listening, I listen to so much music in the studio. What was I listening to last night? It was that Daft Punk Weekend track. I was like dancing around to that. And I got some new dance moves going on. I was like, maybe I could dance like with girls.
I've seen you dance.
In my dreams, I could dance.
So that was.
I'll tell you what,
that was good.
Joe. I'll tell you what, mate. Patrick took us to heart to the Bedouin night.
Oh, did he?
It's because I heard you talking about.
What did you think?
I heard you talking about that deep.
What you came to Ibiza, didn't you?
Yeah, briefly, but it was a while ago.
What did you think?
I went away from there like loving the music, really loving the music. Very, very minimal, but atmospheric and very deep.
Deep.
At that tempo, you physically cannot get the same level of bass.
It's sort of like fucking. I don't know if it wasn't really techno. It's sort of like Afro house. It's just the bass. I remember when
Middle Eastern house.
It's like your sort of shamanic kind of house.
Cool.
But when you have the sound system in Heart, it's such a decent sound system, man. It's like when that bass kicks in, it's like, man, it's just fucking like. You've never heard anything like that before, right?
Yeah.
It's fucking huge, and it's like 100 BPM. Or 110 BPM.
Like, I grew up listening to hip hop. Like, you cannot match that bass. Like, you just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fat.
It's fat. There's always that. I'm glad you went to that night, Alex. Yeah. So I also, I draw experiences from stuff like that because that's been a really nice thing about coming to Ibiza was, of course, I've played a few times here. Of course I have, but nothing to write home about in terms of like playing all the time. But to go out, obviously I'm going out as a punter normally, so not a punter, I mean I'm on a guest list and stuff, but I mean I'm going out listening to other styles of music.
Let's be clear.
And yeah, I mean, it's nice, man. I've discovered like that night that Alex just described and a few other ones, there's been a handful of really eye-opening experiences here. I've even played a couple of deep house sets, deep techno house, whatever you want to call it, bit of B. Svensson, bit of, I've played some eclectic sets myself here, and that's been really good fun, So I welcome that. I've got a whole collection of techno house and the rest of it for when I play in just my mate's villa party or something. I remember I went to Barcelona to Pat. You remember Pat's house, Alex?
Oh yeah.
And we did, and by the end we'd been awake.
I heard about this set.
Oh my god!
Balcony sunset,
and I didn't have that many tunes with me, but I did have enough. But we were having such a good time. I think I must have played each of those tunes about 5 times each, including Scatman, which was the peak every time I played it. I mean, all everyone was the chorus of Scatman, and that was
it's
great
because
fun.
a whole different crowd had rotated.
No, it was all the same people. But anyway, I mean, I tell you, it's so fun to play an eclectic DJ set with all your friends in a fun party where it's totally non-serious and great. I had a moment there where I thought, wow, maybe I'm missing a trick here. It would be nice to be able to play different styles of music as well. So, but that's always something for the future. I'm always experimenting with making different kinds of music. I made another breakbeaty kind of groove the other day, and made something like Tron style, cinematic kind of like that stuff, and some I like doing that. Eventually I want to just create my own genre, just like which has got all the best vibes that I like, just like got the funk, got the uplifting, but also got I want to do that, and I'll always experiment with it. But one day I'll sit down and I'll make it a priority. But the time hasn't quite come.
You're a man with a vision, Joe, and I hope that we all get to party together before too long.
Absolutely.
That's all we've got time for today. I'm gonna let you get on, but it was so nice to catch up.
Great, man. Great. Good to catch up, man.
Great talking to you, Joe.
Yes, thank you, guys. It's been absolutely wonderful. And thanks, everyone, for listening. And, see you all soon.
Always nice to catch up with Joe there. Sounds warm it sounds warm where everyone is, but me.
Sending you some warmth. I could use some of that Finland ice, to be honest.
Are you in a party?
I'm turns out my neighbor is having a party.
Sounds huge.
Go Alive. # Go Alive. It's massive. It's huge. It's like Sunburn is right next door.
Beautiful. God, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, just kind of floating in the Baltic Sea somewhere.
The grass is always greener on the other side, Alex.
What about you, Savitha? Anything going on your end?
Yay. Oh, I've got loads going on because I know everybody else is in lockdown, and I'm so sorry for all of you. But gigs have started here in Goa, for better or worse. And I just played at the opening of Shiva Valley on Tuesday, and I'll be playing this Saturday in Anjuna again. And next Sunday is the opening of the Mighty Hilltop, and I'll be playing there as well.
Nice.
Feels good to be gigging.
Yeah. Mixed feelings about gigging this time of year, but sounds pretty awesome to be around people.
Exhilarating and like jumping off a cliff at the same time.
Awesome. We'll be back with the next Futurephonic podcast really soon. Stay tuned, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep rocking.
Lots of love.